You got one. Okay. So you're all set, and you got everything you need.
As far as I know. Unless you know something I don't, I think I'm good.
You read that? What came online?
Yes.
Okay, the meeting is 5:30, it is 5:30, and I call the meeting to order. Oh, shoot. And I'm glad we're all here. Something's not right with my hearing aid, sorry. Oh, well. The first, we've got people on, we got people coming on Teams?
There's no one yet.
No one yet, okay. And we really weren't totally expecting them. So, I'm sorry, but it's just not working the way it should. There, that's better. Dr. Tice, would you like to be first to speak tonight? We would appreciate it.
I know, but I have asked all the members of the Conservation Commission to come and make their own talk. And I want to speak last, so nobody thinks that I've influenced their views. We haven't discussed this.
That's fine. Well, will you please call on your people and run the discussion to your satisfaction?
I've just asked them to give their own comments. I'll talk to Shirley first, and then Carolyn, and then Ed, and Kate.
Okay.
She's online.
Is online, so she'll speak after those people get done, and then I have some comments to make myself.
Okay, well, please.
So Shirley, go up there and start in, please.
Say everybody can join us at the table. There's enough seats.
You can all come to the table if you want to. There seem to be enough chairs, or you can
All right, that's fine with me.
pontificate from the back. Whatever you want to do is fine.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I've been going over the information and the process you have, and I think you did a great job of gathering information and input. And I was really pleased to see that you had included the Conservation Commission, but I didn't know about it, that you had expected us on October 3rd, or I would have been here.
Well, we're glad you're here now.
But anyways, I think you've done a great job, and the minutes are great and really give a very good overview. I did wonder, I had a couple questions before I tell you my opinion. Did the forester submit a letter?
We had I don't know if you'd call him a forester, but an arborist that does forest work and tree harvesting, who submitted a letter before the committee started meeting that had been delivered to them that pretty much just stated most of the harvestable trees had been harvested already.
Because I was confused on the other hand, when Mrs. Patch spoke, she said that they would keep the maples and cut the other trees if they were able to acquire the land.
Yeah, they wanted to extend their sugar push.
Mhm.
A lot of that up there surely is junk.
Another thing, I wondered, did anyone from the Upper Valley Land Trust ever come to a meeting?
No, and they were invited.
Pardon me?
They were invited, but they didn't come, and they bought a lot of land this year. I saw their annual report, so I'm not surprised. I'm not sure that it'd be a piece of land that they would want.
Mhm. I guess we wouldn't know that unless, we would talk to them to find out. But anyways,
I can talk to them if you want.
Yeah.
I put my land in Haverhill in conservation with them, and they're very easy to communicate with. It's not a
Right.
problem, and we could ask them, or you could ask them, or But I think that they would have
That's your.
responded had they been interested.
Yeah, I talked to them on the phone at least 3 times and they knew about it. And
So I would think that this is not a matter of concern for the Upper Valley Land Trust. They trust us? Sorry.
Okay, let's see what else I have here. I thought the abutters gave some very interesting input. And, considering the wildlife in the area and also that, the rural area that that's what they purchased there because that was the type of area they wanted to live in. And, let's see, and I also thought the part about the master plan, the town master plan, and following that, development should be focused around the town center where there's infrastructure and also, recreation opportunities. And I thought those are things that we should really take into consideration and spend a lot of time on that master plan and a lot of money. And it's a good idea to follow what the community would like to see. And they seem to really want to keep the rural areas rural and develop in the town centers. And so, and also I think that the stormwater runoff from development is a big concern.
Well, it's a
And we
hill.
see- Pardon me?
It's a hill.
Yeah, we're seeing that in our area already. We don't know what's going on, but we're having silt running off of the hill from somewhere where someone is doing something. And that's a serious problem for us, for wetlands and for lakes. But so all in all, to me, I think the best solution is to sell. And did I write down the name of the person? So I know there were 2 interested abutters who would like to buy it. I leaned towards the, I think what was their name?
Hinshaw?
Yes. That the town would get money from the sale of it. And they would, I would hope it would be written in their deed. They voiced that they'd want to keep it rural and protect the wildlife and have trails there. And I don't think there necessarily has to be a lot of money put into trails. It seems like that people can enjoy it the way it is right now. And so I think written in their deed that this wouldn't be able to change. It would be kept as it is for in perpetuity. And I think that's a win-win. The town would gain the money from selling it, and these people would see that it was taken care of. They could also approach the Upper Valley Land Trust and see if they would get assistance from them in advice.
Thank you.
Just a clarification, hi Shirley.
Hi.
Just a clarification for you, the town can't make any money on the sale.
Oh, well, that's.
Any profit would go to the original owner
Mhm.
that the town possessed it from. Correct me if I'm wrong, Ed, but
We get the
That's
money
one of
for
the things that
taxes
we-
and that's
Yeah.
it.
that's one of the things we learned from
Mhm.
that. So.
Yeah, okay, that wouldn't change my opinion of what should happen with it.
The other thing that the Hinshaws had mentioned, and just want to maybe confirm that they would be willing to work with the Conservation Committee in
Yes,
developing trails. Is that something that you guys would be interested in pursuing?
well, I couldn't speak for the whole Conservation Commission. We'd have to have talk about that, but it wouldn't surprise me. I think we would like to be invited to have input and to help with things like this. Just we feel it's
Let's hear
important.
from the other members of the commission.
Okay.
Thank you.
I didn't know, I thought it was.
No,
Yeah.
everything you said was important,
Okay.
Yeah,
but I think
And-
we ought to let everybody from the Conservation Commission talk
And I-
and then we'll,
Okay, very good.
thank you.
and I do think, I think it was Ed that pointed out, that even if you put 25 houses on that property, the town would gain, what is it, a quarter of one?
Nothing.
cent or something, yeah. And it would change a whole area completely.
Yes, yeah.
Hi, my name is Carol Wyman, and I am a member of the Conservation Commission. I'm also a tree hugger, and I'm also a landlord. About 8 months ago, we put one of our properties up for rent, and I was inundated with phone calls. And the calls were, a lot of the people who called looking to rent were desperate for housing. They had families larger than should fit into the property that I was renting, but they literally told me they had no place to live. So I rented the property, and then I had to call all these people back and tell them that we rented it, and it was just heart-wrenching, you know, what people are going through with the housing shortage up here, and the extent of the housing shortage became very obvious. With that in mind, and provided that all the wildlife corridors and wetlands and stormwater runoff protection are observed and handled properly, it would be my opinion to sell part of the property, build up to no more than 10 houses with 5 acres each, and then put the other 50 acres into, leave them in a natural state.
Thank you. Sir,
Hi, my name is Ed Rippey. I'm a relatively new member of the Conservation Commission. But that doesn't mean I don't have opinions. And well, I'm thinking, I want to start with a couple of questions, and then I will give you my opinions. And I'll give you a little background too, before I give those opinions. The committee, I know Tom very well. He's a good neighbor, a good friend. I don't know, probably some of you I've never met before, but how is the committee formed?
they asked for people to put their names forward. I don't know how many people did. And they were looking for people that didn't have any access to grind. Can I say that?
Yeah, we had about, I don't remember the exact number, but it was about 15 applicants that put their names forward. And the select board looked through their resumes and chose people, and they really did, they looked to, I guess, eliminate people quickly that were really outspoken on either side of the issue.
Okay.
And they wanted people that were a lot more neutral going into it to listen and learn. And this is the committee that was chosen.
Fortunate to have had help from people not on the committee who are neighbors there. And Dr. Little lives across the street. So we've got a really good mix of people. I think it's a great committee. It's worked really well.
So you're in a butter.
No, not by definition of what an abutter is.
Okay.
I live outside of it, but we're like twice the distance from what an abutter is.
Okay,
So
But he's up there on Methodist Hill.
he knows the area, he knows what it's
Yeah.
like now. Okay. Oh, cool. This sounds like that was well done. And I know Tom, so I know at least one guy's a really good guy.
We're all good guys.
Okay, I'll be willing to believe that. I live on Crystal Lake, on Holly Drive, and I'm the current treasurer of the Holly Drive Road Association, Road Maintenance Association. And I'm also a member of the Holly Drive Association, which is 11 of us that own a parcel of land across the street from us. we joint own it, and this land cannot be developed unless the 11 of us agree to do that and to sell it or do anything like that. And I'm kind of a tree hugger too. Preference to maple trees because I like to do some sugar and it's just a lot of fun to do. I like not having people across the street from me. And I like the land not being developed there because I've seen the results of development up above us. And I've seen runoff and silt and all sorts of crap coming into Crystal Lake, which very much disturbs me, which pretty much got me interested in joining the commission. Having said those things, I read all of the minutes that were shared with us, which sounded like they were very good meetings and a lot of good give and take. I really liked a lot of the ideas that abutters had said. I like to see that they would like to maintain the wildlife corridor that exists, because there's a lot of wildlife in that area. I like the idea of hiking trails being part of the parcel. People were concerned that live on Methodist Hill about runoff that is exaggerated or aggravated by more building. And they're also concerned about increase in traffic on the road if they were to develop some of this property. So I'm going to be the guy that sits here and says, I would like to see that land not sold. I would like to see it maintained as 100 acres and have it available for our grandchildren and people, the future generations. If we sell half of that land or all of that land, it's gone. And it will be developed to a certain extent and maybe overdeveloped. So I would like to not sell it, not develop it, but have it available for hiking trails and tapping maple trees there. The person that wants to do that, I would love to see that done. I'd love to have them be able to do that. But those are my opinions.
Thank you very much.
I'm up.
Yes,
I didn't realize it was gonna be like this. I thought we were gonna be sitting in the audience. I'm Lee Davis. This is my second time around with Conservation Commission. I was on it previously, I think about 9 years, and I was the chairman. So I've seen a lot of growth, a lot of this and that, good things, bad things. I was listening to a program 2 days ago, and I was not aware that there is now credentialing for quiet spots in the United States. These are parks and recreational. They're finding out there are recreational areas available to the public, but there's a lot of noise, traffic going by, building going on, around this area. And they're finding that this is affecting people's mental outlook. And this is a big study. I could not tell you the university that did this. So they've acquired a group of people who are certified in quietness, and they are in search and certifying certain recreational areas, and it's a high honor to get this. I read this today in the laundromat. I was fascinated with the chain of events of how the land ended up in here. I have never been to this Methodist Hill property, but I have a good vision of it. I'm in the woods probably 2 to 3 hours every day walking. I understand how good it makes people feel. You can go out upset, stressed out. You get out in the woods and everything goes away. It's peaceful and quiet. As far as people building there, yes, there is a demand for housing. But what type of housing is going in? Is it gonna be high income, low income, which is the biggest demand? You don't have any control as long as they meet all the ordinances and building rules and regs. So it could be higher income people, and people are still looking for places to live because they can't afford homes like this. I say, save the land. Land is precious. It's in the spot where I'm sure it's very quiet up there. I wish I'd gotten up there, but I didn't have a chance. Anyway, so my vote or opinion, keep the land as it is, have it remain town, and let the Conservation Commission try to influence how it's gonna be used, or at least help in the usage of it. That's my opinion.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Dr.
Is
Tice,
Kate Stewart, on yet?
Yes, she is.
she's there, but
I'd like
it's
her
your
to
turn
give
to
her,
talk.
no, I'd like her to give her opinion. She's a member of the Conservation Commission.
Oh, okay, as long as she's on the commission. Kate? Kate, you're muted.
Stuart, is that it?
Catherine Stewart, yes. Done.
Hi, the muting was intentional because I'm in another location.
It's your turn to speak as Conservation Commission.
So I don't necessarily think you need my opinion because this is going to go before the Board of Selectmen. So I'm here to kind of just listen to you guys.
So she doesn't want to give an opinion.
She doesn't want to give an opinion.
Okay.
Dr. Tice will go ahead. Thank you, Kate.
You're welcome.
Well, I'd like to say at this outstart that I think the property should be retained by the town and that it should be named as the Bosworth Sargent Park. There is a park on East Davis named the Hughes Park, and I have a history here of the Bosworths and the Sargents showing their contribution to the town of Enfield over 200 years. Jonathan Bosworth lived from 1757 to 1834. He fought in the Revolutionary War. He was on the Board of Selectmen in 1794, 1796, 1798, 1799, 1800, and 1820, 1832, which was 2 years before he died. Jonathan Bosworth is buried in the Methodist Hill Cemetery, and he was also involved with the school board there, as well as was Ariel Bosworth. Clara Sargent actually sold the property to Emma Sargent for $1 in 1894. And Emma Sargent married, and these are all in the genealogy stuff that I got out of the Haverhill county seat with all of those registrations and warranty deeds. Emma Sargent married two brothers, not at the same time. Philip Sargent, and after he died in 1874, she married his brother, Nathaniel Sargent. Now, Emma Sargent had two children with Philip Sargent. One of them was Clara M. Sargent, which was named after the Clara Sargent that sold the property to Emma Sargent for $1. She, in turn, married a Bosworth, and from then on, that property has been in the name of the Bosworths. They have sold it back and forth. One of the original buyers moved to Missouri and eventually sold the property to Verno Bosworth Sr. He died in 1985, and he left the property to Vern O. Bosworth Jr., who was the last recorded owner of the property that I could find at the Haverhill place. So the Bosworths and the Sargents have not only contributed a great deal to Enfield, but they've also, in some cases, been an appropriate reserve or appropriate groups to be recognized from the national point of view. So my view is that the property should be retained by the town, and it should be named the Bosworth Sargent Park, as we've named the Hughes Park in East Davis.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. And thanks to the commission. You're welcome to stay and listen. It's time now for public comment. Mr. Bianco, back there, did you want to speak tonight?
I'll just keep it brief. I think, most of the points that were made, and I should identify myself as Paul Bianco, 38 Birch Lane, Fieldstone Ridge Homeowners Association across from Methodistville. I think a lot of the points that were made reiterated comments that were heard throughout the various meetings in terms of the wishes of the community for the property. I think the one thing that we need to verify, it's always the devil's in the details, is the legal ramifications of the ownership of the property and who gets what money. I tried to find out for myself to see how that whole process worked, and my eyes went cross because there are a number of decisions that were made. And so I'm going to stand here and tell you, I do not know the answer. And I know that you've been, you have access to those records and what are the proper procedures and where the money goes and where it doesn't go. So I think whatever that outcome is, we need to make sure that both the committee and the public, those of us sitting here, understand that process. And that's all I have to add.
Thank you very much, sir. Mr. Drinkwater? Mrs. Drinkwater?
No. I think at meetings before I said I want to keep the land open, and I think once you develop it, you never get it back, so.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I don't remember your name, sir.
Dan Kiley. I don't have anything. I'm vice chairman of the planning board, which means at some point it's gonna come to us. So I was just sitting back here to see where you guys are going in.
Thank you. Sir, I don't know your name.
Well, my name's Nate Miller. I live at 450 Methodist Hill Road, and this is the first one of these meetings I've attended, but I have followed along with your minutes and watched some of your meeting videos on the town's YouTube channel. So I'm a little bit up to speed on what's going on, at least the ones that are posted. I guess first of all, I'd like to thank all of you on the committee for your hard work. I have a unique perspective on this. Not so long ago, I was sitting on your chair on a different property use committee in the town of Enfield, and I understand, your challenge in balancing the townwide needs and financial considerations with all of the concerns and recommendations that you've heard from abutters. So I recognize your challenge here with a unique perspective. I did participate in your site walk recently, and having participated in the site walk, it was the first time I walked the entirety of the property. It's pretty clear that a large majority of the property is not economically viable for development, no matter what you end up recommending. Probably 3/4 of that property is a combination of either steep slopes, running water, or stagnant wetlands. It's not going to be economically viable for development. For that reason, I tend to personally think that the entire property should remain as open space because so much of it is constrained with environmental challenges. That said, I do recognize that there is a corner of the property that might possibly provide a buildable area for 3 to 5 houses in a 5-acre zoning framework. That's what we have on Methodist Hill Road, as you know. If this committee ultimately recommends selling the property to develop a portion of the land as housing, I guess I would ask you to consider 4 things as part of your recommendation. The first would be that any sale require a stipulation to permanently preserve public access to no less than 80% of the property, preferably through an easement that ensures public access in the future to that large majority of the property that's not going to be developed anyway. Second, that any sale require a stipulation to permanently preserve and protect the Class 6 road rights of way that exist on the property. Third, that regardless of any sale, the town consider designating the existing Class 6 road rights of way as Class A municipal trails under RSA 231A. That's a specific trails designation that exists in state statute. And then lastly, that regardless of sale, the town, through its trail master, begins scoping a volunteer effort to improve those Class 6 road rights of way as passable walking trails for townwide public use and enjoyment. As I think many of you have heard already, we don't really have much in the Methodist Hill Road neighborhood in terms of any sort of public amenities. All of the public amenities tend to exist on this side of town and towards Enfield Village. It would be wonderful to have a walking trail. The network exists already in terms of the public rights of way. I recognize that some work would need to go into that. There's some water, there's some work with loppers and clearing that would need to be done to manage the water and make those passable as walking trails. But I think through a volunteer effort, a lot could be accomplished on that front to at least give the people of the town and the people of the Methodist Hill neighborhood, myself included, a place to go and get out in nature and walk and exercise. So I would ask you to consider those 4 things in your final recommendation, if in fact you do recommend selling the property to reserve some portion of it for housing in the future. Again, my personal opinion is that it should remain open space, but I would ask you to consider those stipulations in your deliberations.
Thank you very much, sir, and thank you for coming.
You're welcome.
And I need to say something. Thank you for running the Johnston committee. It was, I thought, really well done.
Thank you very much, Barbara, and it's good to see you on the other side of the table. The roles are reversed.
That's why I'm here.
There are some people online, and if they would like to comment, we will give them some time to do that. But one of the things, Conservation Commission, when the public comment is over, you're welcome to stay and listen. It's a public meeting, but I'll ask you to leave the table. Thank you. Anybody up there online like to talk to us? Mr. Hinshaw is there, and Ms. Bogorowski.
Yes, I'm Mrs. Hinshaw. Balgrowski is my professional name, so.
Oh, okay, sorry.
That's okay.
Is there a comment that you would like to make, either of you?
Parker, you want to say something?
Well, I think all I would really say is we're very committed to wanting it to be open land and kept that way and developed for trails and so forth. If there's any way that we can help, either by purchasing it or assisting in the development of it, we're really open to it as long as it remains open. But Gene probably may have a different twist on that.
Thank you very much. That concludes the public comment of the meeting. And
could I, ma'am?
Oh, she wanted to say something. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Just I guess to comment on a couple of things. What Parker said is the case, that we're very committed to keeping it open, preserving the nature, preserving the history, which is incredible. And Dr. Tice had, shared some of that with us, but the stone walls and everything over there speak volumes. So we're committed to, what we presented before in terms of our intentions, and preserving the wildlife corridors, and also to create a resource for the community. I love the idea of a quiet space, and developing the trails and all those. So our goal is to work with the town to try and create that win-win. A couple of things I just want to bring up. We haven't really had an opportunity to have the discussion about the proceeds from a sale, if a sale were to occur. But it would be really, I think, worthwhile to understand, is that an absolute or not, that the town couldn't get money from the sale of it, because there have been other opinions about that. So just to understand that, because, we care about the town. this is not about just us. If the town could get that kind of a windfall, that would be very, very nice for the town, and those resources could be used for many things. So that's the goal, a great part of the goal. And then the other thing is, when we were getting our property, the Windswept Farm, which is right next door, we're abutters, there was a letter that was part of the paperwork. And I will, commit to going and finding that, but it was from the Bosworths. And I can't tell you exactly which Bosworth it was, but I believe it was one of the seniors and then one of the juniors that Jerry had described. And that letter stated that if the property were ever sold, they wanted it to go to be connected to the Windswept Farm to preserve the forest and the nature. So I think that might be helpful in terms of understanding the history. So we should, I think, try and find that letter. And I guess the last thing that we want to say is, regardless of how, here's another thing. Okay, I was just thinking about this when you were speaking. We may, if we're hearing strong feelings from various members of the town to keep it open, don't sell it, and things like that. But, later, if that's what the town decides to do, is hold on to it and keep it open, the town can definitely decide to do that, the select board. But I believe that the town could decide later to sell it, like when it's no longer the people who have listened to the community and gone through the committee work and things like that. And so maybe there's an idea in here, maybe working with the Conservation Commission, the Upper Valley Land Trust. I don't know what the right resources are, but somehow if we could in perpetuity create something so that it couldn't be changed later, that would be our wish. And, if we can be part of that equation, we've always said we want a win-win-win. Win for the town, win for the community, and win for, conserving and the nature. So that's what we're about.
Thank you very much. Closed public comment, 6:07.5 or something like that.
There's something, I just see a hand being raised up
Is
there.
another hand raised?
No, that's,
Meetings accountant? Is that you?
Yeah.
Sorry. I just saw the hand raised, like.
That's fine. We were asked last meeting to come with what we think should happen. And as chair of the committee, I'm going to start. And I got copies for everybody if you want them.
Sure.
But
Let's just
you
ask.
may not like what I have to say. Pass these around. Okay, first thing I have to say is I'm no good at math. Arithmetic.
With the fan going in the background, sometimes the voices
Okay,
get hard to hear.
is that better? Okay.
Project away.
It seems to me that whatever we decide is best to do with the Methodist Hill 100 acres, it will cost the town significant money. The amount owed in taxes is $36,000. The lot across the street on Birch Lane sold for $225,000. There are 5 possible building lots along Methodist Hill Road. Selling those would make the guy who let the property go for taxes become a millionaire. And that really bothers me. Did he do that intentionally to make a huge profit, whether he's a Bosworth or whoever he is? If we decide to just keep the peace, I get to say my say, everybody gets to say their say, and then people can tear it apart. If we decide to just keep the peace, we will have to pay the former owner the value of the land minus the taxes owed. That will cost the town a whole lot of money if the value is comparable to the other side of Methodist Hill Road. We need to find that out. Could we sell it to the Hinshaws or Patches at a reduced price with some conditions? Less town money or none to the former owner? If we calculate it correctly? I don't think we can, but anyway. Whatever we do, there should be a correct survey at the town's expense. We'll get that cost back when you add it to the taxes thing. So what's the best use of the land? Houses or recreation or conservation? I cannot get past what it's gonna cost the town, the cost of the town of Enfield. I understand that no matter when or if the town decides that to sell is best, maybe years down the road, the town will be required to pay the difference to the former owner or heirs. Heirs, is that correct? There's no legal limitation to the town's obligation to pay. Ed, you sent us a thing via email about that, what the law says, and that there are mixed decisions.
Let me clear that up though. If we
Yes.
sell it, no matter what we sell it for, we don't have to pay the difference. So there will be no cost of the town. If we decide to keep it, we have to pay the difference of the fair market value.
But if we sold it for a whole lot of money, we get to keep the money?
No, we don't get to keep the money.
We
But that
don't,
doesn't mean that you have to sell it for a whole bunch of money.
we could sell it for a little bit of money.
We can sell it.
I'm finished with what I have to say. You can tear me apart now, please.
I go next, or?
Yeah, go ahead.
I wrote this as if it was coming from the complete committee,
Thank you.
but it is my opinion, just so you know. But when I was drafting it together, I just thought I would try to make it look formal as coming from the complete committee.
Thank you, John.
So the subject, obviously, is a recommendation from map 2, lot 29 property on Methodist Hill Road. The objective of this committee was to determine the best use of the property. This is addressed to the select board of the town of Enfield, New Hampshire. And here's what I propose, and again, I'm saying it as we, but it is my opinion at this point in time. We recommend the property on Methodist Hill Road be subdivided into 2 properties to be sold at auction at a cost just over the back taxes owed, plus any administrative and legal fees associated with the sale. That addresses your concern. So it doesn't cost the town anything, and no money or very little money is going to the previous owner. The first subdivided property shall be approximately, I was thinking this was a good compromise, I said 20 acres, and I believe it's the southeast corner, but I was trying to figure it out with the map and I couldn't see a compass, so I think we all know what corner we're talking about, that's possibly for development and can be used for housing development, with each property accessible from Methodist Hill Road and adhering to Zone 5 regulations, including cluster housing. The remaining approximately 80 acres shall be designated for conservation use only, with the ability to develop trails on it for hiking, mountain biking, snowshoeing, and cross-country skiing. It must also be available and accessible to the public. The Enfield Conservation Committee should contact the new owner of this property to offer assistance in the development of these trails. To minimize the impact of wildlife, snowmobiles and ATVs should be prohibited. For the safety of nearby homeowners and people using these trails for recreational purposes, hunting should also be prohibited. This recommendation is being made for the following reasons. The overwhelming feedback we have received from abutters and the general public is that the primary use for this property should be for recreational purposes, to preserve the history of the land, to maintain the wildlife habitat that was mentioned several times again today, and to have conservation area in this part of town. This proposal adheres to the town's master plan, including provided much needing housing, as one of the people on the Conservation Committee mentioned. It is needed, and the town is aware of that, and that's why it's part of the master plan. But we also want to maintain the rural character of the town. This proposal provides the best economic benefit for the town by selling the property at no cost, and it provides future tax revenues from both the land and any housing development. The Hinshaws, which are abutters to this property, have expressed a strong desire to purchase it for conservation use. So the town already has an interested buyer for at least the 80 acres that I'm proposing be used for conservation only. The few houses that could be developed on this property, in my opinion, would only have a minimal impact on the town's resources, traffic, and water use in the area. We're not talking a lot of homes here. And I just say sincerely, and I list the Methodist Property Committee, and I list everybody that's on the committee here.
Well done. Thank you.
I like it.
Okay, your turn, Jason.
Well done, Tom. Now you make mine look bad. It's not that different from yours.
Okay, that's
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you, sir.
Absolutely.
What you've done here, I was trying to figure that out.
That is not the scale. The pictures on the back, let me be clear. I noted that. Those
I
are
did make a note on my phone.
best rendering as I could come up with, but they're not the scale. The proposal that I came up with is very similar to Tom's. I would propose that the committee formally recommend to the select board that the 100-acre lot on Methodist Hill be subdivided into 3 to 5 building lots along Methodist Hill Road, with the remaining acreage to be sold at auction with a stipulation that the land remain open for recreation and public access. And I base this off a couple of things. I feel that the town has really two obligations here. One is to recoup the tax dollars that the town is owed. Otherwise, why did we take the land in the first place? And two, no one else has said this, and actually you were quite opposed to this, but I feel morally obligated to compensate people for the land that we've taken. Because the land is valued significantly higher than what they owed us. And I think that's a process that exists for a reason, but we should have to compensate them if we were to keep the land. I think that's fair, because that was their property. I would also propose in here a little bit different than Tom's. I would want the town to undertake the subdivision costs of those lots, because it gives the town more control over what those lots look like and how they're situated on the land. I think there was some discussion about whether we could recoup subdivision costs or not. And even if we can't, I think the future tax revenues is how you recoup those costs. I think it just gives the town more control over that. I think the impacts here are largely positive. The outstanding tax debt gets collected. We end up with 3 to 5 new housing units in town. As we've discussed, these likely will not be something you would classify as affordable housing. That's just not something that's going to get built in that area. But housing is in short supply at all levels of housing in the Upper Valley and in Enfield. If someone comes to town that's looking for something more expensive and they can't find it because inventory is low, they take a fat wad of cash and they go buy a house that is more affordable for a family that wants to move to Enfield. Then they renovate it to something that's better for themselves. And then that house has now been taken off of the affordable housing market, and it's going to be permanently off because of the renovations in it. So even though these houses would be higher end homes, it still preserves affordable housing in town, which is directly in line with the master plan.
Good point.
Tax revenue to the town would increase. If, we've talked about the value of these homes, assuming these homes are where we keep assuming they're going to be. You're talking approximately $135,000 annually. I keep hearing people say that's nothing, that doesn't really amount to much. Over 10 years, that's $1.35 million. To put it another way, the tax revenue from just those homes alone would offset 40% of the Whitney Hall bond. So that takes a lot of load off the rest of the town. As Tom pointed out, I don't really think there's much of an increase for policing, fire coverage, road work. All of that is happening up there now anyway. And given the type of housing we're talking about, I just don't see a big impact there in that changing. I think this proposal aligns well with the master plan. 75 acres of this land, assuming we got 5 building lots in it, would be preserved for recreational use by the public in a place that it is desperately needed. From the master plan, I took a couple of quotes directly from it. One is, there are opportunities for further development, residential development. Thoughtful site selection and subdivision design would allow for new housing to be fit into the rural setting while minimizing impacts to natural resources and scenic character. That is directly from the master plan specifically describing the Methodist Hill corridor. In there, they also talked about that it is projected that Enfield should construct 200 additional housing units by 2030 to meet housing needs. That's a lot of housing. And we're nowhere near meeting that goal right now. This is something that can help at least get things moving. And then the last thing that I mentioned was just much attention is focused on building new affordable housing in our region. Maintaining the existing supply of workforce housing is equally important, also directly taken from the master plan. So that would be my recommendation. And then I did provide just sort of on the back, just a quick drawing of what the lots might look like. As we know, these are R5, so these are approximately 5 acres. This is definitely not the scale. I am not a surveyor by any means, but it gives you kind of a general idea of what that might look like. I'm also not sure in terms of the class 6 roads, how the lots would fall there. So I didn't even try to play with that. So, and we can't really go much further north because that's where it starts to get hilly and wet. So you might have to manipulate the shape of the lots a little bit. You know, instead of, these are just literally the minimum 250-foot road frontage and then whatever it took to make 5 acres. So
it'd be easy to slide those 3 to the south too and just leave a little corridor for the road.
Yeah.
Thank you, that's good. Barbara, you're next.
I did not prepare, but I did prepare in my head, and I've been thinking about this a lot. I came to this committee completely convinced before I heard anything that there should be affordable housing in that space because of exactly what Jason said. We have very little land available. But after listening to all the committees, including the master plan committee, including the recreation committee, it has started to make way more sense to me not to have these 5 lots, which I also was convinced was a good idea, to take those out. These are all gonna be $1 million houses. They're all gonna be, there's also that road that goes through here. But these are not the people we're really concerned about for affordable housing, unless there are a lot of homeless doctors around. I propose.
There are.
Just saying.
They're called renters. In between houses.
And also after listening to a butter across the street who, with tears in her eyes, was talking about the water damage and the runoff and all kinds of real damage that's happening now, I don't think that the expense to the town is going to be minimal. There's going to have to be a lot of water that's rerouted and all kinds of issues there. I also remember, although no one else on the committee, I think, remembers that the Henshaws were interested in building right on their line for their children, I think.
Grandkids.
Grandkids. Grandkids who are into chipmunks. That impressed me.
Yes.
So I also recall listening to the recreation committee saying that they were not only not interested in this property, but they weren't willing to spend any finances coming from Enfield to improve this property. So what I'd strongly like to suggest, listening to Jean Henshaw talk about being a steward really affected me. That she would be someone who was on top of things. I didn't hear from anyone in the town of Enfield say that they would be responsible for cutting trails or managing things. But I did hear that from Jean Henshaw. So my strong suggestion is that we manipulate the auction process to a point where it's not all that expensive, but surely, as Jason said, the people whose land it is should be getting some compensation. But look at the Henshaw's offer seriously, and for my money, that's what I would take.
Thank you. Ryan, your turn.
These are excellent points. I think every single opinion put forth makes a lot of sense. So I don't know that there's a wrong or, necessarily right or wrong decision. I don't know that I'm actually gonna change the weight of the discussion anyway, so I'll go with what my opinion is, which is, I think the entire parcel, we should recommend that the entire parcel be sold on auction, private market, sold on auction, with the following stipulations such that it maintains open space. They're going to outline very similar to what's been discussed tonight. So that would be protecting the public right of way, public access to the majority of the land that's not accessible. That the majority of the land, we'll say 80%, that was a number that was thrown out, that it's preserved as open space. That the buyer agree to work with the town of Enfield to develop trails and recreational areas on that land. We are uniquely positioned here that there's more than one interested party that would be willing to privately own that land, but preserve public access and allow some volunteer stewardship to come in and take place for recreation. That's not a common situation that you'd find yourself in, that someone would be willing to put their skin in the game to preserve open space so that others can use it. I think that's a really unique opportunity in this particular, I think that's the main reason that I've been kind of pushed towards preserving that open space. So I think if you can outline the stipulations that that public has access to it, that there's recreational areas that are in line with the master plan, that it's protecting public right of way, and that it's largely maintained as an open space, that the entire parcel just be put on the block, and that'll take care of taxes that are back. It won't cost the town a dime. And it also won't come with it the logistics of trying to fit properties on here and maintain public access to a frontage that's not, to be honest, large portions of the frontage of that property you can't easily just hike into. There's this section right here. And once that's privately sold and developed with homes, it's going to be challenging for the public to actually get behind those houses and use that public space. I just think it's going to be really challenging for that to be a public space that's truly accessible. I'm sure with that plan and changing these blocks, you could probably find a pull-out space for people to get access to kind of hike in from behind. And I think these are wonderful points, but I would be in favor of just the entire parcel on the auction block with a few stipulations that preserve open space.
Thank you. Kevin?
As the recreation director, I feel I should be saying it's for recreation. I think we got something new in town with this trail maintenance volunteer group that we have. I would like to see the land kept and kind of let them this be one of their first big projects where they can get their name going and get out there in the town that this is happening, and that we have this in town. I think it's something that, the town can benefit for, as Nate said. And I have a coworker who works on Methodist Hill also, or who lives on Methodist Hill, and she's made comments that there is nothing for those people on side of town to go do, where here in downtown, you have the Hughes Park readily available. Once you start getting towards Enfield Center, you have Shaker Ball Field with the dog park there. So each part of town kind of has their own recreation area, except Methodist Hill, which, to quote my coworker, it's the redheaded stepchild of Enfield, which it kind of is, being a redhead. I know how that feels like. So I would like to see it kept and let the trail maintenance, I think they're part of the Conservation Commission.
The trail master.
The trail master.
Put them together.
Yeah, I think having them two groups work together is something great that can benefit that side of town. And heck, it may even, it's close enough to Leb, it may start drawing them into town. And when they start using the gas stations because they had to drive a little bit, that helps put stuff into town a bit, but that's what my recommendation is, but I can be persuaded.
Besides being the town manager, you're a member of this committee.
I am. My recommendation's very similar to Tom and Jason's. I think I mentioned it last time I was here, but I would sell probably the entire parcel, like Ryan said, but I would put a deeded stipulation that 3 to 5 lots would be developed, and that at least 80% of the property, 75 to 80%, depending on how many lots they could get, would be maintained for open public use. I understand your access issue, but I think if we maintain that Class 6 road and work with the developer, that could be an easy spot, even though it's wet, maybe just off of that, a place where they could develop a little gravel drive and a parking area to make easy access back there. But I would recommend that. My one difference from Jason's would be I don't think the town should create what those lots look like. I think they just stipulate that 3 to 5 lots come off of Methodist Hill and be developed, and let the developer incur those costs, which would make this almost a no-cost issue for the town to do that.
I think it's important that it be a no-cost issue, or the lowest cost possible for the town.
It'll be low cost, almost nothing is no cost.
Yeah, but we have to have a survey, don't we?
We don't have to.
We don't have to.
We can make them do it.
Oh, okay.
So
If we have an auction, can we make the price low enough that it doesn't cost us a whole lot of money to have to give?
We can put it out there and see what happens, see what people want to do. I've seen properties like this in other towns go for almost market value down to selling it for $1. It really depends what comes across the table and what people are planning to do and what the select board decides is the best avenue for the town. But if we put those stipulations on it, it would be someone in particular. If it didn't sell in the first round, something like that, then I think we look at what Jason did and we subdivide and develop some lots that could go.
Well, but we can put conditions on the sale that are permanent, that go with the land, right?
We can.
That, for me, that would be very important. That we would, but like I said, I couldn't get past. If they say those building lots are worth what that lot is across the street, that's a lot of money.
But it's not Enfield's money.
That's the problem. It goes to the guy that let the land go for taxes.
But to your point, I mean, that's their family and legacy, right? I mean, like that's their land, whether they pay taxes or not, like there's asset value there that, you know, we don't live in, there's no King of England here that's coming and taking your land permanently and not giving you a
Well,
dime for it.
I don't
So
argue
would
that they
echo
should be
Jason's point.
paid. I just argue that the town of Enfield should pay them.
I mean, it has value.
It does
So
have
I would
value,
agree
but
with
we
Jason
don't
on
know
it.
what.
We won't have to pay them. If we sell it, it'll just be a pass-through of
Exactly.
whatever comes in. We
So-
won't have to pay a difference or anything.
That,
You know, I think
That's where I
there's some
am.
confusion there. It's not like we'll sell it for 50,000 and have to pay them hundreds of thousands. That's not gonna happen.
no, okay, well, that's the part when I woke up in the middle of the night
No.
after I read your thing and said, oh my God, it's money.
No, I think that really comes down to the fact that if we decide to keep it, then we need to pay something in the realm of fair market value.
And we
which could
don't
be
know
quite
what the fair market value is, do we?
We'd have to get it appraised.
So keeping it really is the most expensive option.
Could be, and that's a really gray area, as Gene had pointed out. I mean, the courts have kind of said, yes, you should pay that, but there's differing opinions out there, and we would turn to our legal team to have them guide us through that. But there's a really good chance we would have to pay something if we decided to keep the whole thing.
Comments from the committee, I need to shut up.
There must be some sort of provision for a minimum. If you put it up for auction, it really does go down to $1.
I've seen them sell for $1. Depending on what the developer or the person you're selling it to plans to do, and if that's a town benefit, then there's a recourse to either get some money back or to get a service benefit out of that, which is worth something to the town.
I don't understand what you just said.
you know, if we sold it to someone that was going to make trails and make it almost like a public park, but the town wasn't gonna have to own it or maintain it, there's a benefit to the town and the citizens of the town for that. So you can sell it at a reduced cost, knowing that it's providing a benefit to the town.
Oh, okay.
Or on the development side, they're going to provide this housing and it's going to provide taxes and there is a benefit to the town, so you don't necessarily have to sell it at fair market value.
So you don't have to sell it at fair market value. That was the part that scared me. Yeah. And if it's worth what that lot is that's across the street, I couldn't imagine. Tom, what do you think?
I have a hard time giving the previous owner anything, because they sacrificed that when they decided to stop paying taxes. If they wanted to gain any benefit from the sale of it, then they would have continued to pay taxes. I think they just forfeited that when they stopped paying taxes. That's just my opinion. Of course, I don't know the background. I don't know why they couldn't pay them. I don't know if anybody knows that.
So I can play devil's advocate there. If it was my property and I couldn't pay the taxes, I would have sold it.
Right. Yeah, no, they could have had other options.
And now the town
That's a good
the
point.
town is
So-
having to spend all this time and resources
That
as a
they could
realtor.
get a lot of money out of it this way.
Right, and,
But no more than if they sold it themselves. I think that's too cynical of an approach. You know, they didn't do this to become a millionaire. That's
You
not how they-
sure?
100%, because they would have just sold it if that was that.
Yeah.
That
It's an
would
order
have
of
been the right way to do it.
it's an order of magnitude. No, it's probably 2 orders of magnitude greater value of that property than the actual back taxes. They what, 30,000 and you could perhaps get easily 6-figure, or more.
So you think this was just negligence or owl brain?
I mean, it could have got lost. I mean, you could have had a family member that paid the taxes and they passed away, their kids take over their estate. When my parents took over my grandparents' estate, they didn't realize that my grandma had owned land in Arizona.
Yeah, they got letters. We know who it is.
Yeah,
So-
okay, well, just kidding.
So how many years did it take for Enfield to take this, over 2 years?
It's usually 2 to 3 years when we take it.
Is there an extension that can be, not right now, I'm not talking about right this situation, but
There can be, but we try not to now. It's usually not fair to the taxpayers or the landowner to extend that.
to say, keep expecting taxes and having them be delinquent for 10 years,
We're pretty strict now. When we hit that legal limit, we start the process.
So it's like delinquent for 2 years.
Is there interest on it?
There is interest on it. Yeah.
What if in the midst of all this we're going through, they show up with the taxes? You've already taken the land, right?
Yeah, the town owns it.
So they can't,
There's some provisions for them to buy it back, but it's gonna be extremely expensive at this point.
yeah, this thing you sent out about, how they have to be, this thing that you sent out about that there's no limit, that this could go on forever to their heir, to,
There's no statutory limit anymore. There used to be a limit that if we owned it for so long, then it was the town's land.
right, and now there's no statutory limit, so this could go on for a long, long time unless we sell it.
It could, it depends. I mean,
Well, I'm not saying it will, I'm
there's some
saying,
reasonableness
but
in there too. If it's a park for the town's park for 20, 30 years and then they decide to sell it, they're not gonna make them do it then. But it really goes back to what Jason talked about. If we take your land and we decide in 5 years to sell it and profit off of it, that's not right.
so they have to be compensated, yeah. Does everybody understand that, like I said, I'm terrible at arithmetic, man. Does everybody understand this whole business about having to compensate them?
Yep.
And you think it's the right thing to do?
Well, like
Not
I said, I
necessarily.
don't, but I think we can do it in such a way as they don't benefit.
that's right, it's all
So that
about.
could- that can be
Well,
done
I'm
that
with
way.
you on that,
And
yeah.
then I guess the question I'll raise to those that think they should be compensated, how do you control with your proposal that they get compensated for the land? How would that occur?
Well, the land is sold, so the town is gonna recoup its costs in terms of back taxes and so on, and whatever other fees we're able to recoup, and the remainder would go to the previous owner.
But have these owners responded to these letters you sent? Has anybody responded?
Not that I know of.
So who's there to take this big fat check?
Both figured out. That's what we do.
So basically there, you're putting it up for auction to the highest bidder,
Essentially.
rather than doing a low cost sale. Okay.
With stipulations.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, obviously with the
That's the whole debate
stipulations
of
of
how-
conservation only, right?
There's
yeah,
gotta
right.
be conditions in the sale.
Yes, absolutely.
Conditions, yeah.
I think we all agree there have gotta be conditions.
Right. Now, Ed, you mentioned about the development. If we decide to go with the development, stipulating that, like you said, 80%, I think you were saying, has to be,
Yeah, I don't know if
Or
it's
something.
80%, I mean.
or
we can look
something,
at the
something
numbers,
along
but-
those lines, but would that also entail that they couldn't clear cut 5 acres? Can we somehow prevent them from doing that?
We can look at provisions of keeping it natural and
Right.
only doing.
Say
you know,
2 acres around the home and the rest
That's,
natural.
that's what I'm thinking, because then if you take your, your map somewhat, and you just cut it in half, as far as saying, this is the, the clear cut, you still have half their land. And then the property is pretty much quite a bit accessible. I think it's a better solution, than what I was thinking
And I
originally.
really think you don't know what people are gonna do, you really don't know, but I have to think human nature would dictate that mostly people would do that anyway. And people are gonna naturally wanna be further back from the road since they're right at the road. And you walk the land in this direction, you're not gonna get a view. So what would you gain by clear cutting the rest of your 5 acres? You really
You'd be
wouldn't.
surprised, someone comes in with horses and they
That's
wanna
true,
clear it
that's
out.
true.
and-
And I think you'd also be.
That's true.
You'd also be surprised that most people want to be close to the road for plowing purposes.
As I say, I don't know if you would stipulate the 5 acres,
And that's,
but it would be the rest of that. You could
Yeah.
stipulate that if you put in conservation, you can stipulate almost anything.
Right. So that's, I
But the
would
5
definitely-
acres would be someone's personal property. I think I personally would try to steer clear of telling them what they can and can't do on their 5 acre parcel, but.
so
I think everybody understands tonight that, or understood, everybody that was here, that you really can't develop up the hill. The only land that's really developable is right along Methodist Hill Road. And it has to have 250 feet frontage on the road. Every lot has to have that 250 feet. And so that if somebody wanted to develop the whole thing, they couldn't. Jim Kelleher came and told us that you really can only develop what's right along Methodist Hill Road. And that probably needs to be in our proposal. Moving right along, because it's 6:45. Our last meeting is December, I believe, 19th. Is that correct? And we have to come up with a proposal to the selectmen. And we've heard lots of opinions, and I think if we would each, again, with what we've heard tonight, write a paragraph that we can combine to give to the selectmen. And I hope that we can come as a committee to that select board meeting
Yeah,
with our
absolutely.
proposal that we all agree on. And I think we have to, by the end of the meeting on the 19th, we have to come to an agreement on one proposal. So we can spend the next 2 weeks trying to do that on our own. And you can talk to one other person, but you can't talk to the whole committee.
I would be
Okay.
very cautious of that.
And you need to be, yes, and you need to be really cautious about it.
Well, if you talk to her and she talks to him and he talks to him, you just broke the meeting law. So I'd be cautious talking to anybody outside of this meeting.
You know, this rule is making it so I don't want to be on any other committees.
It's not my law, it's a state law.
Okay,
It's
so
stupid.
We got
your,
Johnston
your
property nailed
task
down in
for
one.
for 2 weeks is to
That
come
was a
in
couple meetings,
with
but yeah.
no more than half a page of what our proposal should be to the select board. And we're gonna sit here and we're gonna end the meeting with 1 page to go to the select board. Everybody clear on that?
I'm not clear
Okay.
at all on that.
And, for the rest of the meeting, we have to, yes, sir.
Yeah, let's go play in it.
The town owns the 100 acres,
Yes,
and we did not get money, tax money, $36,000 or something like that.
yeah, it's a little over $30,000 interest.
Why is the town in debt more than that 36,000? If we own the property.
The courts say if we keep it
Yeah.
and we use it as a piece of property, then the town is taking a property that's worth so much money that the town should pay the difference between what the taxes were due and what the property is actually worth. It really keeps town from wanting to just go land grab people's
Okay,
stuff.
okay. And so it's probably worth $200,000, or I don't know.
I don't know, we'd have to get it appraised if we decide to keep it and see what that is and talk to the legal team. There is a gray area there, and we've mentioned that, you know, there's lots of recommendations and thoughts that that's kind of what the courts have said, but there's also opinions that that's not necessarily exactly what it means, so. But we'll cross that bridge if that's what we
Okay, so
decide to do.
let's say it's worth $200,000 and they owe $30,000. So the town has to come up with $170,000 to pay who?
The person that we took the land from. Yeah.
That's
Can you see why I was upset?
Yeah.
But if it's sold for,
I was gonna say.
if it's
Yeah,
sold
that's
for,
right.
I'm just not into taking people's stuff.
That's why none of the proposals said the town should keep it.
right, yeah.
That's why no, well.
That's right.
What was
effect-
interesting
in
though,
effect,
when the recreation committee came, as a whole proposed, they wanted us to sell part of it to develop it. And the money that was used to sell parts that's developed was used to pay.
But they didn't understand that there wasn't gonna be a big chunk of money
Yeah.
when
you
they
can't do
proposed that.
Right, I know, yeah, that's true too, yeah.
So can I ask one more question?
that. Sure.
So using those numbers, we're at $170,000. Is it worth developing and doing everything we're talking about? Or should we just eat that, keep it, and then it'll go up in value, and then we can use it for all the things that everybody that abuts it wants to see done?
I'm gonna say their decision, but that's the decision this committee has to make.
Yeah, I'm looking at you, but I'm actually asking.
Well, we have to make a recommendation to the select board. We have no power over what the select board decides.
Right.
This turned out to be a pretty complex issue, and the select board has other things to do, what with moving to the town offices and the library. So they formed a committee to talk to people and listen to people, and we've really been good at that. We've done a good job. This has been a good committee. And we need to come up with one proposal to the select board about what we think is best. And if we are there at their meeting, they can ask us questions and we can justify what we think is best. So I think we need to go to the meeting. And put us first on the agenda. And I would like, because it's nearly 7 o'clock, and I think we've all said what we want to say, and we've answered all your questions, that we approve the November 21st minutes, and we go home, and when we come back on the 19th, we come ready to create one proposal to present to the select board.
Did you want to hear from Jean since you took?
Yes, surely.
Will there be public input on that night?
On our deliberation, you can sit and listen to us, but I'm not gonna take much comment from the audience because we've listened to everybody every meeting, everybody that's been here has had a chance to speak and say what they think. And people like Paul, he wrote us a 2-page thing that we all have read and talked about. And I think we are at the point where we have to come up with a proposal to the select board so the select board can make their decision.
Can I say one more thing?
Sure.
I urge you to really consider, when you think about developing 20 or 25 acres, what stormwater problems that could create in the area, stormwater runoff.
We've talked about that a lot, Shirley, and a lady came here and talked to us at length about how she's getting drowned down below Birch Lane. Sort of what she was saying, wasn't she? And that we really have listened to everybody that wanted to talk to us. We've listened and listened and listened, and we've got everybody here that we could possibly get here. The Land Trust obviously has let us know that they are not interested, but they were invited. Everybody's been invited. Everybody's been listened to. Everybody has said over and over again what they think we need to do. So now it's our time. And you can come and listen, but I think that the last meeting on December 19th is for the committee to sit here and craft a written document that we can present to the select board. And anybody can come to the select board meeting when we get to go, and you can comment there too. But I want our last final meeting to be us creating our own proposal.
I just,
Sure,
because
Mr.
I haven't said
Farley?
anything, I'm just gonna throw this out there. It's called RSA 8042A, which says if a town or city retains and holds property for public use, the title will be, it's not gonna be the select board that decides what to do with it. If you say you're gonna retain 100 acres, it means town meeting has to approve it, and not the select board.
Yeah, but we only go to the select board.
I agree, but I'm just telling you that, you could come out and say, we want to retain, we're gonna tell the select board is not gonna be able to make that decision. If you say, we want to sell a piece of it, then the select board can make that decision. They can sell property.
Well, one of the reasons for finishing this on December 19th
Right.
is so it can go to the select board and they can make a decision if it has to go on the warrant.
Right, exactly, because they have to make that
Yes,
decision by the first
they
week
have
in
to-
February.
Yeah, that's why it was constructed to
Right.
do it on this time frame.
That's all I'm saying, though. Depending on what decision is made, it could be a town meeting vote.
Yeah, well, but it has to go on the warrant, and that's gotta be
That's right.
done before February.
That's right. That's all I'm saying.
Should it be a town meeting though?
It's already done once.
No, the select board has the right to buy and sell property. They don't have the right to retain it for public use.
Okay.
Yeah, you have it.
That's been waiting a long time.
Ms. Hinshaw.
Hi. I just want to add one thing that I forgot to say, but given that you're trying to gather all your information and get to the recommendation part, I just wanted to let you know, so it wasn't a surprise. We've been studying the land with a forester and a wetland expert, and this is something we talked about last summer and all, and I think Jerry was aware of it and all. And they're just finishing their report now. But I will be able to send that to you if that gives you any information that might be helpful in terms of inventory of the all of the different species of flora and different soil types and wetland issues and species, some that are protected, some that are not, and all of that. So it's an inventory and then information about the land. So I think that as a first step, I think everybody here wants to be good stewards. So as a first step in that direction, I'll send that to you, and I suppose to the head of this committee and maybe the Conservation Committee. Is that correct? I'm not sure where to send it.
Please send it to the town manager and he will distribute it to us, but just to us at this point.
Okay,
Hey,
got it.
Go to you, it might go to the Select Board and Conservation Commission.
Okay, but
I'll get it out.
it needs to go via the town manager. And that's only one you have to send. He has to do the rest of it.
Okay,
And
great.
thank you very much. That's a really nice offer.
You're welcome.
Okay, the town entertains a motion to, approve the minutes, and Ms. Hinshaw wanted a couple of things corrected. Can I do it? Where is it? Oh, and Ms. Hinshaw has offered a couple of corrections to the minutes on the page, on the second page of the minutes, 1, 2, 3, fourth paragraph down. She wants to change arguments to considerations, and she wants to add, it will say, Jean Hinshaw stated that her attorney said that there are considerations to be had on both sides of the case, whether the town would have to pay money to the previous landowner or not, and that perhaps we can talk that through, is a change she wants to make to the minutes. Does the committee accept those changes? You can say yes or no.
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. You've got a copy?
I'll take your copy, but we need
Okay,
a
that's
motion in a second.
All right. Have we got a second to accept the changes? Okay. All in favor of accepting the changes? Okay, the changes are accepted. Now the chair will, wait a minute. At the top of the page, she said, agreed with Paul's option to not develop the land. Can I have a motion to accept that?
So moved.
All in favor?
Sure.
Yep, okay.
So we don't need a motion on all those, if that's what her changes are, we'll just have one.
I'll just give you the copy.
And this time my name's only
So we
spelled
need
wrong
to, I didn't find, the only thing I found on the minutes was where you
okay, I
said
don't mind.
born, and you fixed that so it's B-O-R-N-E. Yeah, that's fixed.
Yeah.
They are all over my name.
Anything else that you needs to be corrected on these minutes?
No.
All in favor of approving them as corrected?
Do we have a motion? We don't have a motion
I think
yet.
we had a motion, didn't we? I think Barbara moved that we accept the minutes.
Okay.
And we
I'll
need,
second.
and Ryan seconded it.
That's our job.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The minutes are accepted as corrected, and the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn, which needs no second.
Second.
You don't need a second. Motion to adjourn. All in favor? We're adjourned. This is the one with the changes.
Oh, no worries.
Thank you all for your patience.
It's there somewhere.
Thank you for all your work.
I think it's been a good committee, Harrison, and we've learned a lot.
How are we gonna all?
And for me, that's what's important, is to learn a lot.
You said the magic word, you're all good listeners.
That's a group decision.
Yeah, we're gonna have to come deliberate like.
I bought my house in Enfield in 2020.
And it's consensus.
It's consensus.
We're on
It's not-
this mountain.
Doesn't have to be unanimous.
You basically change things little by little until everyone fully agrees. But not at